What are your thoughts on how to reduce corruption in government?
The government of Jakarta has, I guess, initiated a very strong platform on anti-corruption, and I think that needs to be, I guess, not only maintained but also increased in the future. And transparency is a key. We've seen other examples, like from Surabaya, the second largest city in Indonesia. The mayor has been able to transform the mindset of the people and putting everything online, pretty much like many of the local leaders doing. There is a region chairman in Batang area, Pak Yoyo, who's actually, for the sake of transparency, put everything now out in the open, including salaries. That's pretty much the trend for Indonesia. We had very systemic corruption in the past, and I think it's slowly, with the help of the civil society, is fastly changing. And I think that's everybody's commitment, that we want to have a cleaner and definitely corruption-free government in the future. And I'm committed to be doing that, and I think everybody is committed. And we need to just make sure that this agenda, this platform, is going to be here to stay, making sure that our economy is more competitive because we have zero corruption.
So it sounds like you may be interested in starting a website that would make everything transparent, Jakarta.gov.Indonesia, something like that?
That would be something like that, and something of an innovations. And I think not only like the current government is doing, is putting all the meetings in YouTube, but also, I guess, the way deliberation is being done in terms of how budget is negotiated, because that's pretty much still an opaque process between the legislature as well as the executive branch of the government. And I think more and more people needs to have transparencies, and we need to also bring in the civil society as part of the guardian angels of what we call, in terms of starting this movement and having a mindset that's pretty much going to make sure that Jakarta is going to be a clean, transparent, and disclosure is at full force.
Okay. You had mentioned a growing population in Jakarta, and I wanted to ask you about the growing middle class in Indonesia. How do you see the growing middle classes changing the country, and especially Jakarta? What kind of opportunities does that bring for foreign investors?
The growing middle class is going to, we now have about 45 million middle class as the terminology of middle class. It's going to grow to 135 million middle class. That's almost 3 times the size by the year of 2030. This presents opportunities. It presents some issues, but more opportunities, because the growing middle class would need better educations, better healthcare. They would require better infrastructures. They would want to have better information and well-connected. Middle class would be basically be such a huge asset, presenting Indonesia as one of the most attractive market in Asia. So I guess I see it glass half full rather than half empty. I see this as an opportunity, and this is not only for investors from abroad, but also from local investors, local entrepreneurs who are able to identify the trend and able to identify how technology and the digital world can be embedded into these opportunities. And I think those companies or those entrepreneurs will be the winner.
What kind of things are they going to be buying more of in the next, say, 4 or 5 years?
They're going to be buying definitely consumer goods, consumer related services also. They would need a better wealth management, because they're going to be more affluent. They'll be consuming food, they'll be consuming fashion. The way they buy and the way they interact with each other is going to change. So we've seen already the iterations of growing entrepreneurs in the transportation space like Gojek, or that not only revolutionized the entire transport industry, but he's able to create 150 to 200 jobs. Nadiem Makarim, for instance, or Ahmad Zaki from Bukalapak.com. He single-handedly been able to reach close to 500,000 of these micro and small businesses to start using e-commerce as their platform. So people who are in East Java, in some small home industry, can reach some customers in, for instance, Medan in North Sumatra. And that's basically through the help of technology and e-commerce. So that's pretty much how I see how our middle class is transforming. It's really exciting, and I'm really intrigued.
Okay, great. Speaking of the middle class, well, actually, it's a little off the subject of the middle class, but if we could talk about the rich-poor divide for a second, that's something you've spoken about.
That has something to do with middle class also.
Sure, yeah.
Because the middle class that is able to graduate into the rich, quote unquote, would definitely, not all of them, but for instance, we're talking about 140 million people by the year of 2030. But that would leave 100 to 160 million of Indonesians are still living probably middle to lower income category, and some actually living around the poverty line. So this is pretty much what we have been very, very concerned about because our Gini coefficient ratio, which measure the income or the gap between the rich and the poor, have grown steadily to now 0.43. Jakarta is actually the highest among the cities in not only in Indonesia but also in the world. So we need two things, in my opinion, is how we empower the people in the bottom of the pyramid around the poverty line by providing them access to opportunities, giving them the access to educations, healthcare, in terms of how they could really empower themselves in terms of be economically active. Some of them become micro entrepreneurs, not by design, but by necessity, because they need to survive. I think the second thing is job creations. Together with access to educations, job creations would be able to lift some of these people around the bottom of the pyramid to actually through middle class. Access to educations, with educations you're able to provide them with open exposures, and with the right training they could join the skilled workforces and pretty much build their way through their career. So that's pretty much in everybody's agenda, how to minimize this divide, because otherwise it's very, very dangerous, and it could be an embryo for social disruptions in the future.
You mentioned that before in an article. I read that you said something about just what you said now, social disruptions caused by rich-poor divide. So that's something you want to actually absolutely avoid.
Yeah, I've gone through 97, 98, whereby there's a huge riot in Indonesia together with the reform movement. And people said that it's basically pent-up anger by the people seeing injustice in terms of how these rich Indonesians have exploited the country, rack up their debts and letting the government pay for their debts. And this is what really fueled their anger. And that's because of economic injustice and social injustice. We're now on the right track. The government has the right priority, but we have big homework in terms of how this growing economy would not only benefit for the top middle class or the rich, but rather be inclusive to all Indonesians and to all Jakartans, including some of the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid.